Hello, hello, hello. What ho? Welcome back to another exciting adventure of the Plain Truth 2.0. I'm your host, Travis Mateus, also at Radio Free Anarchy. I wanted to just continue to shout out accolades and appreciation to Paul in Santa Barbara for these images and these videos that he captures. The thing that I want you to understand right now, if you're looking at this for the first time, somebody said to one of my videos yesterday, I don't know why this video came up in my recommendations, but I watched it. And what's unfortunate about that interaction is that there was no constructive appreciation for anything in the video whatsoever. So I'm either assuming that the person is a troll, one of my trolls, or if this person is genuine and actually had the video come up and he says, I watched the whole thing, like nothing in that video that I did say was remotely interesting or curious to you. And he also said, all of your questions will be answered if you just stop watching YouTube video. And I said, I didn't ask any questions. I was making declarative claims, which is what I'm going to do right now. Hopefully, trying to create content that is brief enough and clear enough to understand, okay? This view that we're looking at right now, right? This is 6 miles away from Paul in his position. And then the land beyond that, right? Like, what are we looking at here? So if we're looking from the bottom, from the floor to the point of convergence, which is right there, and then you go to the ceiling, you have this in the foreground, you have a little bit of this boat above in the ceiling, but what's this right here, right? Here's the water. Let me ask you a question. Where does the water end in your mind in this video, in this image? Where does the water end? It ends right here. Guess what we call that? The shoreline. Guess what you're looking at? The shoreline. It's a direct line of sight straight in front of you, and you have access to its visibility because of the conditions of the medium. Why do you say that, Travel? I say that because when you can't see the shoreline, why is that? There's only one reason why you can never see this shoreline in certain images. It's because the refractive index is blocking your visibility, limiting the extension of your visibility into the distance, right? This is the shoreline. Can you tell me what color the bikini is that the woman is wearing? No, you can't. You can't see forever. Why? First of all, angular resolution in perspective, right? See this boat right here? Is this boat really just this big? No, Travel. We know, Mom. You can't see things forever because if something large in front of you goes far enough away, it becomes invisible to your naked eye. And if you keep going farther and farther and farther away and nothing comes between you like a mountain or a tree or another building or anything like that, if there's nothing between you, there's nothing but distance and distance and distance as you pan out. All right? Anyway. I really did want this to be short. Okay, so when you look at these videos, I'm going to just start trying to put out some videos of just using Paul because he has this point right here where you have obviously this jetty, this natural extension of the shoreline where the waves crash, and then beyond, like, this is water. Here's a boat. Sometimes you can't see the water even right here above the jetty. It's gone. Where did it go? the same answer as to why you cannot see it becomes the answer for when you can. When can you not see it? The only time you can not see the distant shoreline is when the refractive index is creating a phenomenon that obstructs your ability to see into the distance. And so then when you can see into the distance, what's that reason? Refractive index again. But it's not going to be the same refractive index that created the obstruction the first time, because you have obstruction and then you have extension. Right now, we have been given the ability to see into the distance, not with clarity, but when you do this in different situations, even with a Fata Morgana or whatnot, you see details that aren't as clear in other conditions. So what's going to happen, we're going to pan down and we're going to see a demonstration of something that is just, I think. So now as he's panning, we're going farther and farther away, okay? You see this line of light bluish or whatever you want to call it, gray. It's not this color, right? So you've got this color gray, a darker gray. These are what I call aqua bands. Aqua bands. So here's one large aqua band. Boop, little small one. Boop, little small one. And then a little bit bigger of one. And then there's a very, very, very tiny, teeny, tiny one right here. This is the shoreline going south, getting farther and farther away. You're not going to see things this far away. Now we've got the ridge coming down, and then we have this Hogan platform. What is this blue behind it? What is this? Here's the water below it. Here's the water below it. Here's the water below Hogan. And then what's this whole thing? That's called land. Land. Okay? And you see this land in different expressions depending on the refractive index. Right now it looks pretty flat between these 2 points, Conejo and then also Ventura. It looks pretty, but sometimes it's above the platform. Here's what you need to understand. This is going down south, down south, down south, down south. You've got this ridge on your left and the Pacific Ocean on your right. I've driven this dozens and dozens of times. You're going farther and farther and farther and farther away. This is now Ventura. Ventura's right here. Here's the hotel. Here's the fairgrounds. Right here, there's Ventura. Why can't you see the fairgrounds? Why can't you see California Street? And then as you move down, you're leaving Ventura and going toward Oxnard. This is just distant. The shoreline. Where's the shoreline, Travel? Right here. The shoreline is right here. You're looking just simply into infinity of space in front of you, and you can't see everything that you think you can. So the other thing that I want to point out now is that also the focal point or the focal length of Paul's camera right now is at a wide angle, right? He's panned out. You can see a wide angle, okay? So what I'm going to try to do in the next video is find one where the visibility of the floor, right? Here's the ocean. The ocean surface is the floor of your visual space. Why? Because this is the horizon. This is the dividing point of your visibility. You have the ceiling, which is the sky, coming down to good old terra firma. Right there, boom, is the focal point. That is just compressed distance and space and size and dimension, just squashed to infinity. What I've said a number of times is that this is a refractive index image. You go out the next day, it's not going to look this way. if Paul would go out, just open his camera, get a general focal point. Let's say he chooses 200 millimeter, and he takes a picture at 200 millimeter. The next day, 200 millimeter, click, 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 every day, whatever. Those images, even though they're taken from the exact same spot with the exact same focal length, will not show you the same picture that you see here. So you're going to have to pay attention to how the floor looks. This looks, let's say, farther away from us, and we see into the distance, and then in another image, it might look like the water is actually really close to you, like, wow. And then the horizon is closer and things are more detailed, or whatever it is. We just have to pay attention to these things because this is not difficult to understand. This is not difficult whatsoever. Just wanted to see if I had any other thoughts on this. Okay, so right now, if you look at any of his other footage, there's a tree right here that is sometimes higher, sometimes lower, sometimes almost at the water. So here is where I would see, let's just say this is where the water is going to touch Hogan, right? Boom, right there. So we watch the floor go to Hogan. We can see Hogan here. There is nothing missing from Hogan. We are looking at everything down to the water. Everything down to the water. The conditions are preventing you from seeing the water splash up against the pilings. But you're seeing full on down to the water. And then as you go beyond this, right, because there's still chromatic distinction here, right? Here's dark gray, then there's this little white line right there of a division. There's a little bit more blue here, like this is just active. So we're seeing beyond Hogan, right? And what makes this accessible to talk about, I think, is that everything above, you have to have height to be visible when you're looking into the distance. Just like you can't see Hogan's pilings and the footing touching the water, if this were farther away, the top of Hogan would get closer and closer and closer to the surface of the water. But everything about Hogan is just getting compressed. That's called stooping in the scientific jargon. As opposed to towering, which sometimes this does, it stretches up, and the next video I'll show you is going to be an example of towering. But this is an example of stooping, and stooping is an indication that your visibility is being extended. First of all, you can see past the target, but then everything else is being dropped into the background. Oh, the other thing I wanted to point out is, like, right here, there are two vertical things, right? And I have no idea what they are, but I mean, it's interesting. So, like, the question here is that when you see Hogan in other videos and you can't see this right here, why is that? Where'd it go? Here it is. My answer is the reason why you can see it right now is the refractive index is allowing visibility that far. In fact, it's allowing these two vertical lines. I would like, what are these two vertical lines? Because if this is Ventura, I mean, Ventura doesn't have any tall buildings. I mean, I have no idea what that is. Anyway, my point is that in the other videos, when you have just like apparently a blue sky straight behind Hogan and there's nothing like this behind it, where'd it go? Please start getting this into your mind that there is only one reason why your visibility is either obscured or diminished as you look into the distance. There's only one reason ever. There's only one reason ever. when you look out into the distance and see whatever it is you're seeing, every single time, whatever that image is produced by the conditions of the medium across the area through which you were looking from your nose to that target. There's only one thing in that space, and that's the ether band. That's the air band. That's the band of air through which you are looking. As you're standing just right here, the band is just enormous. It's just everywhere. But as I start to look away from myself and go into the distance, that band gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Even though I'm looking through the entire atmosphere in that space, I'm focusing into the distance toward the point where my ceiling and the floor converge. And when you do that, just like when you put a nozzle on a hose, you are focusing the energy to come out into more of a constricted space. What happens when you do that with visibility? What happens when you do that with light and you have targets that are all being squished into this little tiny space? What do you think is going to happen? Nothing physically to this thing. It doesn't happen physically, it happens optically. Everything that you see out in the distance, whether or not it's just a bare horizon on the open sea, and you see the edge of the earth. No, you're not seeing the edge of the earth. You're seeing the limit of your visibility. That's it. That's the way you have to think about it. That's not the edge of the earth. Who told you that was the edge of the earth? Where did you hear that language? Oh, maybe in the propaganda that we got from grade school, from elementary school, from kindergarten, from whenever. Back in the day, they used to think that they would fall off the edge of the earth. Would show me where that was written. Oh, well, people tell stories. No thanks. Because guess what I know? I know that's not what I think that is. And I would have been that one saying, I'm sorry, have you ever looked at it this way? Like, the reason why you can't see forever is angular resolution with perspective and the limitation or the extension of your visibility through the condition of the medium through which you were looking, which condition is affectionately known as the ether band. Everybody drink. I've been your host, Travel Mateus, here on the Plain Truth 2.0. I'm going to jump into another video showing you exactly the same concept with different footage. Thank you very much, Paul. If you ever see this, you're a master. Until next time.